Should you use AI as beginner developer? First of all, hello, my name is Oscar and I work as a Java developer for almost a year now. And I'm on a mission here to help 1 million people to become Java developers. So first of all, let's start with how I personally learned to code, because I started learning code just before the AI was even a thing. So basically I started studying computer science, and after, I think it was still, first semester, or it was after the first semester when the first version of ChatGPT came out, at least the first public version. And then the whole shit show with AI started, and everyone started using it, everyone started cheating with AI. And basically, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to learn the basics of programming before I could use AI, because I know that if I had access to AI back then, I would have zero discipline to not to use it and to learn the basics, and I would just cheat on maths basically. And I think personally, if you're starting to code, basically there are like few types of people that are learning to code right now. So we have people who are, for example, in university, and that's like the first contact with programming. They don't know anything. And the other type is, for example, people who are switching languages. So you already learned, for example, C Sharp, you already learned C++, and now you want to learn Java, for example. And the third type will be someone that is outside of like education, like chose different career, for example, now is switching to programming, which is a weird thing to do in 2026, because everyone is saying, "Oh no, you shouldn't learn to program. AI is gonna do everything," which is, I think, just full bullshit. But that's like a topic for another video. So basically, I think when you are starting to learn programming, you haven't earned the right to use AI in your projects, because you don't know basics. And when you, for example, start using AI, you are as smart as the number of tokens you have, because when tokens run out, your all of the knowledge is gone basically. And I think that when you're starting to learn to code, you have to really learn the most basic things, like data structures, patterns, like basic features of the language, like how to do a loop. You should be able, if you can't do a loop basically without even thinking, so for e equals 0, e is until I is less than the length of the collection, e plus plus. If you can do that out of your memory, basically, I think you're cooked, basically. So AI is amazing tool, obviously, and you can use AI when learning to do stuff. For example, like asking it questions about the parts of the code and that you don't understand. For example, so we're doing, for example, a tutorial, some course, and you want to ask more deeper questions about some parts of the code, maybe experiment with it. You can use AI to ask, like, to clarify some parts, right? And for example, finding stuff in the code base. So this video is also, I think, for people who are, for example, joining some new project, like in their job, new project. So I think good use of AI, if obviously you can use it in your job, is to find stuff in your code and explain so existing patterns in the code base, like how the stuff is done already. And so, as I said, you can use AI for asking questions about the code, explanations, finding stuff in the code base. But when you're learning, you should never ask AI to do stuff for you. So from now, please, like the rule of thumb, never let AI, when you're learning to code, obviously, change any files. You should be typing every code that goes to your project. Obviously, there are like some situations when there's like something super trivial and you just want AI to basically edit some 100 files with like one line change. Uh, okay, there's like situations when using AI is justified. But as a rule of thumb, as I said, you should never let AI edit any files in your code base. Because as I said, when you are using AI, you are as smart as the amount of tokens you have, right? So when the tokens runs out, for example, of course, normally when you are on your private projects, you are using your own subscription, for example, for Claude or ChatGPT, you basically have unlimited amount of tokens because like it's very hard for one person to use, for example, a Claude Max subscription when you're like not using only AI to code, but like coding normally, but like helping yourself with AI. And for example, when you're working in proprietary software, for example, in some company, very often, at least that's the case in company I work in, you would have limited amount of tokens because you would be using, for example, open code or like some internal system for AI that is, of course, using the models from Anthropic, from ChatGPT, from Google, from any other like provider, but you are not using a subscription. You are using the API that is like 10 times more expensive, and you would have limited amount of tokens, for example, per model. And at least from my in my company, from my experience, is that basically the amount of tokens that I have, for example, for cloud models is enough to just scout the code base and just prepare like basic plan where should I look to implement this change, for example, because it's obviously when you work on big projects, you waste a lot of tokens for just like exploring it with AI. So I think in at least in the future it will be. I think it's already beginning to happen that we are starting to think not what AI can do, but what AI even should do, and how to efficiently use AI. And that might be fake, but I think I saw on LinkedIn that there was a company that basically canceled subscriptions for AI models they were using and just hired juniors because they were cheaper than using AI. So that's funny circle we went through. Um, okay, I have notes here what I wanted to talk about. So we talked about how I learned to code, that you don't have a right to use AI when you're learning. AI dangers, you're as smart as the tokens you have, and how can you use AI. So I think that's everything for today's video. Today will be a bit shorter. And if you want my personal help with learning to code, with learning Java specifically, you can join the Become Java Developer community. The link is in the description. I think you will love it, and I personally would love to have something like this when I was starting to learn to code, and basically have access to person that is maybe not like some expert senior or principal developer, but someone who is like few steps before me and knows my struggles, knows what I'm going through now, and that would help me personally with my programming journey. So till the next time, create some amazing applications and watch this video that is suggested by YouTube. Bye.